The elevator climbs through grit and wind, steel teeth catching and releasing like a heartbeat. Two shapes crest the ridge, rifles steady. The timer bleeding down to the last light as everyone waits for the greedy shot that usually comes. It does not arrive, shoulders lower, and four strangers ride the same cage out while the siren fades into the broken city below. Now let's head to your favorite bar, grab a drink, and join me for today's story about Arc Raiders, a PvPvE extraction shooter where sound, light, and strangers decide what you keep. Trust is not a word the genre uses often, yet here it survives in small moments that matter. The decision not to fire reframes the run because extraction stops being a sprint to safety and becomes a conversation about risk, time, and people who might help you get out alive. The bargain is simple and unkind. Take what you can from a living map, decide when to leave, keep what you extract, and lose what you do not. Risk is a timer you can hear. You feel that timer in the first minute because extraction shooters are about pressure more than points. Footsteps turn into math. A distant drone becomes a vote against loud roots, and every doorway is a probability you can push in your favor. Arc Raiders embraces that tension and then adds systems that give you more levers to pull, not fewer. The result is a loop that rewards quiet confidence as much as quick hands, and that is where its identity lives. A night begins in safety under the city in a hub called Speranza, where small choices compound into a plan. Loadouts speak to intent. A basic kit keeps you raiding after losses, while a tailored kit means ambition and risk. The stash teaches restraint because space and weight matter, and one protected slot, used well, guarantees a single precious item returns even if you fall. Pick a route and a goal, then ride up into the air that carries sound further than courage. The opening minutes reward quiet hands. Rooms are cleared with angles rather than speed. Hallways are tested for ambushes, and rooftops are scanned for scouts before you step into the open. Light objectives live near your entry to nudge you forward without forcing a path. Small tasks that pay out crafting parts or unlocks back at base. As a pack fills and your plan holds, the idea of extraction begins to outweigh the temptation to push deeper for one more drawer. Greed writes most obituaries. Exits shape behavior long before you call them. Public paths are loud by design, the beacon and lift announcing a dare to anyone within earshot. Quiet exits demand preparation or luck, trading safety for time and travel, and that trade can be the difference between a smart night and a backpack on the concrete. When you commit, the last minute becomes a stress test you can feel in your hands, a window where your kit, your team, and your choices either hold or fall apart. Third-person camera and straightforward recoil help you survive that window with skill rather than guesswork. The wider view trims down unseen deaths, lets you check corners without overexposure, and rewards patience more than panic. Recoil is honest enough to learn, so a carbine you tamed yesterday is a friend today, and that continuity makes improvement feel earned. Attachments matter because they change how you commit to angles. A scope buys a rooftop that used to be a liability. A suppressor buys the extra breath a hallway demands. Clarity makes courage possible. Stamina is the early teacher that most players curse and later respect. It runs out fast until you invest, which forces measured routes and planned sprints rather than frantic circles that end in mistakes. That constraint is not a punishment, it is pacing, turning escape lines and chase angles into live decisions instead of default sprints. As you widen that stamina window and raise carry weight, fights start to feel deliberate and retreats start to feel like craft rather than luck. Progression turns restraint into lasting advantage. Skill lines tilt toward practical gains, deeper lungs, quieter footfalls, steadier hands, quicker recovery, changes you feel on the very next route. Crafting closes the gap between intent and execution by turning scrap into attachments that reshape handling. Vendors trade gear for attention and tasks that send you into districts you have not mastered, which breaks habits and builds new ones without drowning you in menus. Every upgrade should widen options, not erase risk. Arc Raiders largely honors that rule. A tuned kit lets you attempt bolder plays, yet you never outrun the map's demands. A bigger pack makes greed feel possible, which is exactly why you still get punished for one draw or too many. The smartest knights come from leaving early with a sure win, not from proving you can clear the loudest street, and the game is better because that discipline pays. What this design gives you. It gives you a loop where planning matters as much as twitch aim. It hands you readability, camera, recoil, audio, so you can make informed choices and improve across runs. It gives you a progression path that raises the ceiling without collapsing the floor, so new players can learn while veterans still find tension. It asks you to respect weight, noise, and timing, because ignoring those three turns good kits into fireworks. It asks patience in the first hours, while stamina and carry weight grow into the tools they need to be. It asks you to leave when the plan says leave, not when greed whispers that there is time for one more room. Bold moves should come from knowledge, not impulse. That sentence is the difference between a night you remember and a night you regret. The game keeps your best stories tied to smart routes and clean exits rather than lucky brawls, which is why returning players often talk about paths, not products. It is a shooter that respects the quiet parts, and that decision gives the loud parts teeth. The Ark are not set dressing, they are weather that moves. Small crawlers wait in ceilings and under stairs and punish blind entries in tight rooms. Scout drones trace loose grids over streets, and if they see you long enough, they bring trouble that forces spacing and cover, whether you are ready or not. Bomb runners drum a rhythm that makes doorways into geometry puzzles, and aerial units circle roofs to deny lazy high ground. Silence is a resource you spend. These behaviors build habits that save lives. You crouch near windows because drones peek back from the dark, and you pause at thresholds to read the pattern before you cross a space. You time distance between teammates because a single blast can end two good runs if you stack too close. You hold fire when a scout is searching and commit when you can finish the job before the alarm carries, because noise in this game is an invitation you cannot take back. Larger signatures redraw your plan in a single footstep. A towering machine stomping through an industrial lot turns a quick grab into a question about resources and time. The right answer may be to shadow it at a distance and slip by, or to rally three loose raiders into a 2-minute partnership of convenience. Arc Raiders aligns incentives in these moments, so cooperation emerges without a handshake or a party screen. The world is the real boss. This ecology keeps PvE meaningful even when you never see another player. Learn a patrol's tell, and you can avoid it or burn it down with a plan that uses cover, spacing, and focus fire. Miss the cue, and the street teaches fast. A corner becomes a trap, and a good backpack becomes a cautionary tale. The world's pressure is the true generator of stories because it shapes how humans meet under stress. Time of day and weather bend familiar blocks into new problems. A street that felt safe at noon turns treacherous in low light when silhouettes blur into the ash and drone lights look like reflections. A courtyard that offered easy angles becomes a muddy churn after rain when slides carry farther than you want. These changes are subtle on purpose, enough to keep muscle memory honest while still rewarding knowledge. Maps should reward restraint and make noise expensive. Our graders gets that part right. The best runs are defined by what you did not do, the shot you did not take, the sprint you did not start, the room you did not greed. That design creates a rare effect in the genre where mercy and caution are often optimal plays. It does not declaw the game, it gives the game a second axis beyond raw aim, where the edge shows. Aggressive patrol overlaps can overwhelm new players in tight alleys, and learning to break line of sight is a skill the game expects you to practice, not just a tip on a loading screen. A loud mistake can cascade into a fight that drags three unrelated raiders to your door, which is thrilling and punishing in equal measure. The balance here is intentional. It is how the game earns your respect, yet it can be a wall for the impatient. Good AI should make you change routes, not just your gun. That is exactly what happens. You start bringing tools because you can name the problems they solve, not because a rarity color told you to equip them. You start leaving early because you can hear the cost of staying. And on some nights, you share a lift with the same silhouettes you shadowed 2 blocks earlier because everyone understood the loudest enemy on that street was not human. Proximity voice is a small feature with large consequences. It turns targets into people close enough to negotiate and lets you de escalate before mistakes become firefights neither side wanted. A calm voice behind the wall becomes information rather than bait, and an offer to pass without a fight makes sense in a game where the world is already loud. The fiction is grim and practical, and the loop rewards restraint often enough that speaking first becomes a viable play. People become practical in hard places. Shared incentives push those moments into the open. Loud extracts pull eyes from far away and create standoffs where everyone does the same math out loud. A ride is coming, no one wants to be the one who feeds the other squad, and the right answer might be to hold angles together for a minute and leave. Light objectives often overlap, which turns two solos into a quick partnership when they realize they need the same part from the same room. Sometimes a revive item lifts a stranger because helping them through the next block is the safest call. Queue choice keeps talks rational. The ability to join solos, duos, or trios gives you control over risk and makes more fights feel fair. When matchups feel fair, the stranger has less reason to preemptively kill you out of fear, which opens the door for negotiation. When the fights feel unwinnable by default, trust collapses and the genre reverts to paranoia. So this groundwork is crucial for the surprising tone Arc Raiders sustains. Trust is a tool, not a mood. Betrayal still lives in the system, and it should. Extract camping exists because the lift is loud and the timer is clear. That clarity creates the most thrilling minute of any extraction game. Handshakes break at the door when greed returns or fear overtakes discipline. And those moments are not flaws, they are the price of a sandbox that respects player choice. Trust cuts both ways, which is why a shared escape feels like a win larger than a pile of loot. What this layer gives you. It gives you nights you remember because a stranger chose sense over pride. It gives you stories about two solos sweeping a courtyard in silence, then splitting with a nod. It turns open mics into safety tools, quick promises in hallways, shouted warnings on roofs, and small courtesies that make busy servers manageable. What it asks in return. It asks you to read people as well as streets, and to accept that an open channel carries risk. It asks you to use mute and report without ceremony when someone poisons the air. It asks you to let restraint be a skill you practice, not a coin flip you lose. The genre's soul is a coin flip you can nudge. Arc Raiders hands you the nudge. Readable combat, hard AI, fairer matchups, and a voice that carries just far enough. The set of tools does not force kindness and does not punish hostility beyond natural consequences. It simply builds pressure and lets you decide how to release it, which is why its community often reads as calm rather than cutthroat even on tense nights. The system keeps both choices valid and lets the culture form around them. Choose this if you enjoy tension. You can read with your ears and feet. The loop rewards planning built from sound, drone paths, footfalls on metal, wind blowing down a hallway, more than it rewards reckless speed. Choose this if you like emergent co-op more than scoreboards, if a whispered truce in a stairwell sounds better than a montage of kills. Choose this if your favorite plays are timing intercepts at noisy extracts and punishing greed without ruining the night for everyone else. It is less suited to players who need a scripted campaign with a clean ending. The stories here are earned, not delivered, and they live in your memory rather than a cutscene. It is rough on anyone who hates the risk of losing gear, even though the game softens failure with a basic kit and a protected slot that saves one precious item. It can feel slow if you want constant human versus human volume because the AI's first pressure and the quieter pace ask for patience. What the game does especially well, it lets the world do the heavy lifting so even PvE heavy raids feel tense. It makes restraint and timing into skills with visible payoff. It keeps progression focused on practical gains that change how you root, not just how hard you hit. It gives you a voice in the street for the rare moment when sense beats pride. Weapon balance can drift, as in every live shooter, which narrows choice until tuning widens it again. Early stamina pacing can frustrate newcomers who expect full mobility from minute 1, though it teaches root discipline and turns upgrades into real relief. The hub leans on menus rather than a walkable social space, which limits the feeling of an underground city you live in between raids. Character personalization skews to outfits and finish rather than deep avatar sculpting, which can feel thin in a third-person game where you see your raider all the time. If you measured fun by earning exits rather than raw kill counts, you are the audience. That is the simplest way to frame it. This is not a highlight reel factory. It is a pressure cooker that rewards measured play and remembers mercy. It is a game about leaving at the right time, not about proving you can stay. If that sounds like your kind of night, you will find a home here. Arc Raiders capture something rare in this genre. It takes the relentless risk of extraction and threads it through a steady human possibility that strangers might help when the world gets loud. The systems support that hope without erasing danger. Readable combat, hard AI, fairer matches, and open voice. Which is why a shared lift can feel like a win larger than a perfect backpack. The rough edges are real. Weapon tuning needs passes, stamina needs a kinder first hour, and the hub would benefit from a place to exist between menus. The foundation is exactly what a healthy extraction shooter requires. The loop is easy to understand and hard to master. Good behavior is sensible, and bad behavior is costly in ways that teach rather than scold. Runs begin quiet, small puzzles solved with careful angles and short breaths, and then a decision about when to leave becomes the heartbeat of your evening. Sometimes a stranger will help through a courtyard because the next street is louder than pride. Sometimes you will sprint with a pack that feels heavier by the second while footsteps echo behind you. Sometimes you will ride a lift with the same silhouettes you shadowed 2 blocks earlier, and the siren will fade while everyone exhales. Those are the moments that keep players up later than they meant to be. Arc Raiders is more than worth your night. Thank you for spending time with this story today. If I gave you a good hour, a small signal of support helps more than you think, and you are always welcome to stay for the next one. Take care of yourself, stretch, drink some water, and rest your eyes. Until the next story, see you soon.